Welcome to Heartbreak Chronicles. It was one of the happiest nights of my life. On our 30th wedding anniversary, many of the family and friends who had been present at our wedding reconnected. Thomas looked exceptionally attractive. He was as fit as ever, with the hint of silver threads at his temples hinting at a future silver fox-like maturity, but those regal blue eyes never changed. I can only hope he still looks at me with the same eyes. I'm 52 years old, but still in good shape and only 3 pounds heavier than my wedding day. For this party, I had purchased an elegant evening dress and a new pair of heels, and spent the entire day getting ready. It was so heartwarming to see old friends and grown children, nieces and nephews. They took on most of the organization of the party. Instead of elaborate speeches, we simply wished everyone a good time. Later, Thomas asked me to dance. Everyone stopped and looked at us, and the scene reminded me of our wedding night. Thomas smiled at me with a hint of melancholy in his eyes. "Thank you for being with me for 30 years. I smiled back. "I should be thanking you. You are the perfect husband and I couldn't be happier with our life. You're also a wonderful wife." I thought Thomas's response sounded a bit disappointing and even a bit strange. We continued to dance and he spoke up again. "I think you coped well. I only saw you glance toward him the whole night." "I'm sorry, who are you talking about?" "Don't start lying, Laura. It's beneath your dignity, and after 30 years of loyalty, I think I deserve to hear the truth." Silence. "Well, since you're going to play dumb, let me put your mind at rest. I'm talking about your boss and your lover, William Davenport. Unlike you, he's been watching you tonight." Suddenly, I felt a wave of nausea and tears welled up in my eyes. I'm hoping onlookers will think I was moved by the emotions of the anniversary. "Don't cry, Laura. You're the one at fault. Keep dancing unless you want everyone to know something's wrong." I didn't deny it or ask how he knew. "He deserves more." "I'm sorry." "No, I don't think so. If you were truly sorry, you wouldn't keep going back to him. It's a planned, conscious, repeated behavior. It's not that simple." My voice trembled. "Seems simple enough to me, having an affair with that rich boss of yours. How long did that relationship last?" I'm not sure. Probably a couple months." We continued to dance, with the children's eyes focused on us. God, if they knew what we were talking about, I'd be devastated. "How often do you see each other?" "When traveling, every couple of weeks." There was no inappropriate behavior in the office. "It's not what you think, not wild passion." "Yeah, that sort of thing is reserved for me, isn't it? And why is that?" "It's usually said that women need more than men can give." "No, it never was. After he lost Lucy, it was more about friendship and comfort than anything else. He went into a depression, and I just try to help him recover." Thomas laughed. "How noble. I guess it was perfect timing for him to have you spread your legs." "Don't be vulgar. It's about love and care." "So it's love? You mean you're in love with him, Laura?" "I have feelings for him, but not like I do for you. It's all gotten so tangled up now. If you love someone enough, things shouldn't get tangled up. And you seem to love me enough to be willing to hurt me. I never wanted this. I never thought you'd find out." We continued to dance, and a few more couples joined us, gathered around the edge of the dance floor, just as we had on our wedding night. "Stop it, Laura. You know the consequences, and whether I know it or not, this is a betrayal. Isn't this the time when you swore eternal love to me, said it was all a terrible mistake, and promised never to see him again? I'm not sure what would happen to him if I left. He really used to be depressed, not just unhappy, clinically depressed. Don't be so cruel. He's suffering, and I think he might go so far as to kill himself." The music is over. "Well, let's go talk to this client." "Jesus, you're not going to make a scene here, are you?" "Depends on what the asshole says." As we approached, Thomas looked contemptuously at William's outstretched hand, letting it hang awkwardly in the air. William withdrew his hand, a confused look on his face. "I want you to tell me what's going on with your relationship with my wife and the fact that you had the nerve to show up at our anniversary celebration." Thomas's voice was low and restrained. William began to stutter in response. "I don't understand what you're talking about." I interrupted. "He knows, William, and there's no point in denying it." William nodded his head quickly, regaining his composure. The truth is, I love Laura. I'm sorry that this has hurt you, but I can't be sorry for my feelings for her. She's the one who saved me, and if it wasn't for her kindness, I might not be alive. About the party, I wasn't trying to pull any stunts. I just thought it would look weird if I didn't show up instead if all my other coworkers showed up. Seriously? Using your late wife as an excuse to seduce a married woman is pretty shitty tactics, even for you. Fuck off. I didn't do that. We just got closer in our grief. I'm totally devastated. You lost your wife and then took mine, and you don't feel good about it, so everything's okay. Is that the logic? I interrupted their confrontation. He didn't take me. I'm still here, still your wife. Honey, we can change that. Thomas growled lowly. I'm sure by now he's recovered enough to provide you with all the money and luxuries. I looked around, worried that people were starting to notice us. You better leave now, before I lose my mind, you scum. Thomas turned to me, and William quickly left. Pretend everything's normal for another 30 minutes, then we'll leave. Shouldn't be too hard for you. You're used to lying. I don't want the kids to know about this damn farce, considering all they've done for us today. I nodded, forcing back sobs as my heart tore at his words. Today's wedding celebration seems like a perfect ending, don't you think? I regained my composure and felt a twinge of anger. Don't say anything stupid. We're not going to break up over this. We can fix it. With those words, I walked quickly to the restroom, trying to find a safe place before I crashed. I never sought an affair. After all, I was happy in my marriage with a perfect man. William was always flirting with me and I liked it, though it never crossed the line. Everything changed when his wife Lucy died. His grief was so palpable that the life force seemed to be draining away little by little. The extrovert who was forever cracking jokes and making people feel good has become so disheveled. I tried to cheer him up, we all did. As a result, we shared a couple lunches. We became closer during the business trip. I know it's helping him cope with his grief, and it feels so natural to be with him. Sex was secondary. I considered telling Thomas, but he'd never accept it. The women who do this must be very naive, and it can be worse than the affair itself because it affects a man's self-respect and dignity, which is something that cannot be taken lightly or ignored. Truth is, I thought I could hide it from him and not get hurt as long as he never knew. Once William recovered, he took me under his wing. He was so grateful that it seemed to him that I could do no wrong and was his savior. I tell myself we need to stop, that the crisis is over, but every time I convince myself otherwise, he cracks me up again and makes me feel so good. William is more refined than Thomas. He has a subtle charm and confidence that I like. He is decisive and in many ways very different from my calm and rational husband. My worst fear scenario is that Thomas finds out about this. I've come up with all the excuses I can think of, and am incredibly ashamed of the pain I've caused him, which, by the way, I do love him more than anything in the world, and that's absolutely true. Now, I'm not so sure about that because I've developed serious feelings for William. The truth is, I'm not sure about anything anymore, and if pressed, I'd say I love two men at the same time. I was completely sure that Thomas would forgive me. He loved me so much and was so loyal to me that I couldn't imagine us ever being apart, no matter what I did. Damn, how did he find out? We've been very careful. When he asked me directly about it on our anniversary, I hesitated and then couldn't look him in the eye. I know denial and anger at the accusations are futile. It all got so bad, so confusing. I stood in the bathroom, looked at myself in the mirror, and realized that my carefully crafted perfect life was falling apart. My eye makeup was smeared from tears, but at the moment that seemed like the least important thing. I needed to figure it out. I needed a plan. I needed to find a way to save my marriage. But when I look in the mirror at the woman who betrayed the one she loved most, I'm not sure I deserve to be saved. The next day, I faced Thomas alone. He looked unusually haggard, looked right at me and said, "You don't seem to be too anxious about this, or maybe you just don't care." "It's not that," I said eagerly. "I love you. I care about you so much." "But you care about him too," Thomas interrupts me coldly. "And you can't even give up that asshole for me." I tried to explain again William's depression, our friendship, and how feelings developed. But Thomas suddenly changed the subject and asked about my upcoming business trip. "What is the purpose of this business trip?" My response sounded pale, nothing special, something that could have been solved with a conference call. So, Thomas said sarcastically, this was all orchestrated and the business trip was just an excuse to cover up your ongoing affair? It wasn't even an affair. I was powerless to argue. Well, that's an excuse to cover up the fact that you slept with another man. Realizing I was in a bind, I tried to change the subject. Before you find out, how would you describe our marriage? A happy, successful, perfect marriage that everyone envies. I feel the same way, I said eagerly. I know I've done wrong, but I've always tried to be the best wife you could be. Yeah, Thomas sneered. Except for the fact that you slept with another man and built this perfect marriage with betrayal and lies. It shouldn't affect our happiness. We're fine, especially lately, and I think I've become more caring. You do seem pleased with yourself. Damn it, Thomas. These mean comments aren't helping at all. How the hell did you find out? Thomas's eyes sharpened. So we're on the verge of a divorce and all you care about is how I found out? Was it so you could cover your tracks better next time? Eventually, Thomas gave his expulsion order. Leave now, Laura, before I do something I'll regret. I decided to go to my best friend Elena. Suddenly realizing something, my heart sank. Elena was the only one who knew about it, and Thomas had probably learned about it from her. She had warned to tell him. When I arrived at Elena's house, I almost lost it. Thomas kicked me out, and the only way he knew about it was if you told him. I didn't say a word, Laura, Elena said calmly, but there was a strange undertone to her tone. How could you? I questioned. How could you betray my trust and destroy my marriage? Elena burst out. You know what, Laura, fuck you. I'm friends with Thomas too. I've known him for over 30 years. I told you it was all crazy and he shouldn't have to put up with it, but you never listened. I haven't told him a word. I've been avoiding him for the last 3 months to keep your dirty little secret. It's pathetic acting like a teenager in love. The only person I've betrayed is him. Now, get the hell out of my house. Getting kicked out seems to be becoming a habit. I stood in the street, not knowing what to do. Going to Mom's? It would be like facing the Spanish Inquisition. To William's? That would have totally destroyed my marriage for sure. Eventually, I had to go to my mom's house and make up a story about a minor altercation to deal with her inquiries. Looking into my mom's worried eyes, I suddenly realized I needed to do something important, even if it meant paying a huge price. I need to come clean and take responsibility for my actions. But for the moment, all I can do is curl up in my former teenage boudoir and let the tears fall silently. There's still a wedding picture of Thomas and me hanging in that room. We are so young and hopeful in the photo. Me in a white wedding dress, him in a straight suit, and we have nothing but each other in our eyes. Looking back now, it's amazing how pure the happiness was at that time, and how I destroyed it with my own hands. After a sleepless night at my mom's house, I contacted William with one last glimmer of hope. I need his help in a plan. He's usually always the calmest, most thoughtful one in these situations. We arranged to meet at an upscale restaurant. I made a point of dressing up and wearing that black dress with stockings and heels. I knew exactly what I was doing. I wanted to save my marriage to Thomas, but also needed to maintain William's interest in me. If the worst happens, if Thomas really doesn't forgive me, then William is my fallback. After all, he often told me how much he loved me. I hate myself for being so calculating, but it seems I have no choice now. We had just been seated, and before the waiter had a chance to hand over the menu, a familiar voice broke the silence. That's an impressive get-up, Laura. I jerked my head up to see Thomas and Elena standing at our table. My heart almost stopped. This can't be a coincidence. What are you doing here? My voice shook with shock. I'd ask you the same question, Thomas said calmly, although the answer is obvious enough from the way you're dressed. I turned to Elena, seething. You bitch. I thought you were my best friend and now you're dating my husband? Elena laughed contemptuously. I guess what I'm doing isn't that different from what you're doing with William. Besides, I've always thought Thomas was a wonderful man. If you're stupid enough to give him up, then don't blame anyone else for knowing how to value him. You can't do this. I yelled at Thomas. We're still married. Ah, suddenly you remember we're still married? Thomas says sarcastically, that dress looks familiar, by the way. If I remember correctly, that's your special date only outfit? Looks like it's going to be a great night, or rather, another great night. I feel my face burning. Hell, it should have been different. This should have been a calm conversation about how to solve the problem, not this embarrassing scene at an upscale restaurant. Elena looked down at my outfit. Black garter stockings? Kind of cliché, aren't they? Maybe you should try a sexy nurse's outfit. You're so concerned about William's health anyway. She turned to Thomas with a charming smile. Personally, I think it's sexier to keep it simple. I saw Thomas give her a small smile. This image cuts me to the core. That's what this is about, isn't it? I yelled at Elena. You told Thomas everything just to break up my marriage so you could have your way. She didn't tell me anything, Thomas said calmly. In fact, I didn't even contact her until the day you turned on her. You're the one who screwed this up, Laura. William had been silent, but now he stood up. Maybe we should talk somewhere else? Oh, no need. Thomas's voice was full of sarcasm. We've seen everything we need to see. Enjoy your date. I watched Thomas and Elena turn to leave, suddenly realizing I might have lost him forever. Even if we are finally able to fix this marriage, it will never be the same as it once was. I went from being a deeply loved and held wife to an almost intolerable presence. I sat in the restaurant for so long, I didn't even notice when William left. I replayed the scene over and over again, trying to understand how they knew I would be here. It's definitely not a coincidence that they came prepared. But what hurt me more was the way Thomas looked at Elena, that tender look I once thought was only mine. The dinner, which should have been an opportunity to formulate a plan to save the day, turned out to be the trigger that completely destroyed everything. For the first time, I truly realized that I may have lost not just a husband forever, but a soulmate who truly loved, supported, and understood me. But I can't give up yet. I'm going to prove to Thomas that my heart always belonged to him. I'm going to show him that it was all a terrible mistake. I have to find a way to save our marriage. I just wonder, is it too late? After the scene at the restaurant, William offers to help again. He said if we were ready, he could meet with Thomas and explain everything. The offer sounds unlikely to work, but I'm desperate and willing to try anything possible. So, I took William back to my home with Thomas. When Thomas opened the door and saw us, his expression instantly twisted. You've got to be fucking kidding me. There are 3 of us involved in this, I said hastily, and William is here to help explain. To my surprise, Thomas sat back calmly. That's great. It looks like our relationship has become a threesome. I can't wait to hear that explained. I ignored his sarcasm and started at the very beginning. I want to apologize. I never intended to develop a relationship with William, and I never wanted to hurt you. I know it's hard to believe, but I really do love you. William spoke up as well. I want to apologize as well. If I had been sane, I never would have crossed that line. I can honestly say that if it wasn't for Laura, I probably would have ended my life. She saved me. You look fine, Thomas said coldly. Is she still saving you now, or is it just sex? You shouldn't be courting my wife just because you're sick. It's still betrayal. William turned to me, his steel blue eyes looking straight into mine. You like him better? I never said that, I sighed, but I couldn't abandon a friend in that situation. You can be friends without spreading your legs, Thomas said gruffly. I ignored the vulgar comment and began to say the words William and I had prepared. It wasn't planned. We just got closer and bonded under difficult circumstances. I'm sorry for causing you pain. You shouldn't have to go through this. As I understand it, we have a few options now. Oh, really? Thomas said sarcastically. Then please open my eyes. First, you can divorce me. That's the last thing I want. But if you insist, I won't fight it. The children are grown, but they still need you, both of us. I'll divide the property fairly, and I'm sure you'll deal with it justly. But this choice would destroy the beautiful life we've planned together. I still want to share it all with you, if you allow me to. If we get divorced, you'll move in with him? We haven't discussed this, but I think it will be inevitable if you decide to leave me. I'm not the one who abandoned you in this crappy drama. I didn't abandon you. You threw me out. The second option is that I could stop seeing William, and somehow you would forgive me. But I'm not sure that's possible. It would always haunt you, and you wouldn't trust me anymore. I can't abandon someone I have feelings for during a difficult time. I'll never forgive myself." Thomas laughed out loud. "Really? In hard times?" He seems like the least depressing person I've ever met. He's like a cat that's stolen the cream. Can't you tell he's enjoying it all? I tried not to let the comment distract me, though I saw William frown slightly. "Or we continue as we are now. You said you were happy, and I want to continue to make you happier than anything. My relationship with William shouldn't affect you. We still respect each other." Thomas starts laughing sincerely before catching his breath. "Respect? Really? You have absolutely no idea." I continued, in return. "I agree that you can date other people as well, even Elena. I think you are a solitary personality, and this may not be for you. But I will understand if you want it. I don't want to explore any possibilities other than you and William. We can be honest with each other. I will be the best wife you both can be. No more cheating, no more secrets. We could try to build a relationship of trust between the three of us. That's the best option I could hope for." Thomas looked straight at me. His gaze seemed to penetrate my soul. "I'll take the first option. Let's get a divorce." He sounded so serious that my heart stopped. Reality hit me hard. I agreed to this ultimatum thinking that I had a ready-made alternative, William, and that he might end up being the better choice if I had already screwed things up with Thomas. Now I'm not so sure. "And another thing," Thomas continued, "is he the one who came up with all this crap?" I turned my head. William looks equally embarrassed. "Jesus, Laura, are you really listening to this crap?" William burst out, "That's perfectly reasonable advice under the circumstances." "Shut up, William. You knew divorce was my only way out, and that's exactly what you planned. Tell me, Laura, who else knows about you guys besides you and Elena?" No one, just William." "Really? So maybe he bragged to a friend about how he hooked up with a beautiful married woman, and that friend told someone else, and suddenly a lot of people knew. Maybe one of those people happens to know me. A cynical person might think that someone made sure the news got to me." Thomas looks at William. "So that's why you came to our party, right? You know I found out, and you wanted to see the consequences. Maybe hoping I'd explode on the spot, so you could wait around to clean up the mess?" "Nonsense. I don't know anything. It's funny how quickly Elena found out about your date at the restaurant through a friend. That seems pretty convenient." I suddenly realized something. Why are you doing this? He loves me. He would never cause me such pain. It's obvious he wants you all to himself. Thomas continued. He did everything possible to facilitate our divorce. He's as unlikely to agree to share you as I am. Tell him, William, say it. What does it matter? William suddenly said, he's chosen to leave you, so we can be together. Thomas continues to press. Are you really depressed? Or is this all part of the plan? I'd love to see the medical certificate confirming this diagnosis. I've traced who told who all the way back to you. Maybe I did reveal something to some people. William admitted, I want to announce our relationship to the world, Laura. So you pretended to be sick and used her sympathy to push for the affair to continue. In short, I found out about it, and you did everything possible to sabotage our relationship. That's the truth, isn't it? So what? William suddenly became aggressive. We should be together. I'm a rich man, and I want a full life with Laura. Even when Lucy was alive, I was in love with her. A loud slap suddenly broke the silence. Before I could fight a second time, Thomas stood up, grabbed William by the collar of his shirt, yanked him to his feet, and shoved him toward the front door. You scum. If I ever see you again, you won't be so lucky. With those words, Thomas opened the door, picked William up again, and kicked him right out of the house. I panicked and ran to Thomas. I'm a complete idiot, Thomas. I can't believe I trusted him. I will quit my job and never see him again. It was all a terrible mistake. I forgot everything I had in you. Your caring, your humor, your understanding. I can't. He interrupted me. You could, if you really wanted to. Is it because of Elena? No. We went there just to clear your head, just like kicking you out of the house was to make you realize that it wasn't a romance. We're just friends, and she's been betrayed by you just as much as I have. It worked, I choked out. When I saw you together, I felt so jealous it felt like my whole world was falling apart. After that, I didn't think you'd ever accept me, That's why I was with William. Intentionally or unintentionally, you hurt me, he said calmly. You rejected me, made a fool out of me, and ruined our lives. I'm the only fool here, Thomas. Please give me another chance. We've had 30 wonderful years. His surprising calmness unnerved me. It's too late. Wait, Laura. You want someone else. I'm not good enough for you. That's not true. I was just trying to help a friend. Stop it. You must know you're lying to yourself to ease your conscience. You enjoy everything he provides. Our lives are not enough for you. It's hard for you to accept, but it's simple. You're a liar, that's all. I think it's time for you to leave. Please don't kick me out. Either you go or I go. In this case, it should be you who goes, don't you think? 6 months later, we divorced easily, except for the fact that there were no ripples in my life. We handled everything online. No lawyers, no counselors, no courts. I moved out and went back to my mom's house, and it was like turning back the clock. It reminded me of the days when I used to live there and how eagerly I looked forward to seeing Thomas. Those memories stabbed me like sharp edges. The morning of the wedding, I was at my mom's house getting ready for the best day of my life. Eventually, I had to come clean to my friends and children. They began to imply that it must be Thomas's fault. After all, he's an attractive man, and he probably couldn't hold it together. Neither my parents nor my children believed it at first, and it wasn't until I had a complete breakdown that they realized the full truth of my betrayal. They didn't cut me off, but the relationship was never the same as it once was. William made repeated attempts to contact me, and I never responded. He's a viper through and through. The eventual realization that the person who claimed to love me was the very person who betrayed me cost me everything I held dear. That's the end of today's story. For more captivating tales, hit subscribe and never miss an episode.